This woman had been missing for 42 years when they finally closed the case.
But before we start, please take a moment to give this video a like, subscribe to Happy World, and hit the bell so you'll never miss these great stories.
This man from upstate New York took his wife to the doctor but discovered something unusual when it was time to fetch her. Several hours after he dropped her off, it was time to pick her up and go home. When he got to the doctor's office, his wife was nowhere to be seen. He returned and waited for his wife to show up, and she never did. Where was she and what happened? What could have happened to her in the first place? The case was closed only 42 years later. He brought her to a medical appointment of hers earlier that day. They didn't find anything unusual about her, only a bad head cold. He dropped off his wife and told her he'd be back in an hour or so. She was Florence Stevens. Her husband last saw her on the 3rd of August 1975. She'd been 36. She was full of life and adventure, so how did she vanish into thin air like that? During the summer of 1975, Florence Stevens worked at the Catskill Mountains. The resort was called the Concord, and it was a 1,200-room resort that was very popular among tourists in the area. From her applications, the detectives learned that she went to Lincoln High School in New York. While they didn't have tons of information on her, they knew her husband was Robert Stevens. No one had any idea where she could have gone. As soon as the investigation was open, people started to look for this woman. Everyone was shocked by the disappearance. Where did this nice woman go? Sadly, clues started to arrive less and less. They didn't find living relatives of Florence, so it was almost impossible to figure out where she was born. It seemed like the end of the road for everyone back then. The case had to go cold because no one had any leads on what could have happened to her. No one had any clue that this disappearance case would be reopened half a decade later. In 2017, Jan Solomon found something that seemed to answer questions in a case he didn't know existed in the first place. What did the senior investigator at the New York State Police find? As you might have guessed, it had something to do with Florence Stevens' case. Did he find her? Where was she? Was she safe? Many questions needed answers. But he didn't come bearing great news. He found a woman, that was true, but he only found skeletal remains. He needed help to identify her. Could she be Florence Stevens? He needed to get his phone and make several calls. He called the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office and asked for a detective. He needed help to learn more about the body he found in the Catskills area. In the United States, about 70,000 adult women disappear every single year. It was going to be hard for him to solve this case without relying on help from other people. Luckily, he had a brilliant idea. As of January 2016, there had been 21,894 active missing women's cases across the U.S. They kept records of cold cases in storage, which meant they could gain access to the data they needed. Solomon was aware this would be hard, so he assembled a team to work on the open cases. They were tasked to look for familiarities in the remains they found. This way, he could find the woman. Even though it was a long shot, he drove to Sullivan County to conduct his very own research. He wanted to make it easy by working on local searches. He was hopeful it would help crack the case. He could tell that the woman came from this area. What he needed then was answers to the questions he had. He found an open case that appeared to match the description of the findings he had on hand. Could this be the answer he'd been looking for? He asked the detectives to see if this woman had any living relatives, and to his dismay, the records indicated there were none. The missing woman file was rather old. The case was opened in 1975 and didn't provide a lot of information for Solomon. However, something clicked for him anyway. What could it have been? Solomon deferred this case to the Sullivan County detectives. It ended up in the hands of Detective Rich Morgan, who was tasked to look for a connection between the women. He dug up something new soon enough. It turns out that they found a work ID, which revealed this woman had been employed at the Catskill Mountains in the past. It was found in the same place as the remains of the other woman. A 36-year-old woman by the name of Florence Stevens disappeared back in 1975. Get ready, because we're about to tell you something mind-blowing about this. It's surprising, we'll tell you that. Detective Morgan managed to solve the puzzle in front of him. As far as he was concerned, this cold case and the corpse did seem to be connected. He launched an investigation into the location of Florence Stevens. When she went missing, her husband worked hard to find her anywhere that seemed plausible. He just dropped off his wife at the doctor's and had no idea that was the last time he'd ever see her. The investigation started from then on. It was sad that they didn't have a lot of new information about her. He died a decade after her disappearance, and it seems like the case was simply full of dead ends. Detective Morgan was aware that it wasn't going to be fun and games since Florence Stevens had no living relatives. He didn't know what he could do to prove that the remains Jan Solomon found were hers. He went through the local and national databases. It was then that he found something crucial. It seems like there was someone out there using the social security number of Florence Stevens. Who was it? He tracked down the number to a place not far from Boston. He couldn't believe what he found. Someone had been using the social security number of a missing person in an assisted living home. He called the facility and told them the record did belong to an individual called Flora. They had her last name listed down as Harris instead of Stevens. The woman had been there since 2001. Detective Morgan went to the facility with another investigator. The two of them were shocked. As you can see, they clearly had no idea where this cold case was about to take them. Here's what Detective Morgan told CBS Boston when he talked to them. Same first name, different last name, but the same birth date and social security. It was clear they had to talk to this woman. They brought the sole photo of Flora that they saw in the database, a photo lifted from her work ID at the Catskill Mountains. They got to the establishment and introduced themselves to the woman. Her reaction showed them completely. She held the photo and pointed at the woman. Detective Morgan said, "She says that's me," or "me," she responded with one word, "me." When they showed her a photo of her husband, they knew that she was the one they were looking for. After all, she said Robert. Sadly, the elderly woman couldn't answer any questions they had about her disappearance. Why? Well, Flora is suffering from dementia and couldn't remember anything about the past 42 years. Detective Morgan recounted, "We really don't know the circumstances of why or how she disappeared. She had psychiatric problems leading up to that point." Her caregiver by the name of Mbuva revealed that he knew of a previous life. Apparently, the older woman had a bad marriage and an abusive spouse. The detectives now believe that she got a bus ticket and left town to escape her terrible husband. Detective Morgan said, "Most of the secrets are locked inside of Flora, and I don't think we'll ever get them." Festus Mbuva, her caretaker for over a decade, said, "To be honest, I don't think she ever really wanted to be found. You can tell something happened in her past that she didn't want any part of." Flora grew up in Yonkers and said none of your business often. Eric Chaboti, the Sullivan County Undersheriff, said, "It's a neat feeling to find someone. The main thing we know is that Flora's safe." At long last, they solved the mystery of the disappearance of Flora Stevens. During the press release, Sheriff Mike Schiff said, "It's not too often that you get to solve a 42-year-old missing persons case." It took 42 years, but they finally found out what happened to a woman who vanished into thin air. Sadly, we don't and will not know the answers. The 78-year-old woman only smiled and waved from her wheelchair. Thankfully, the authorities ended up finding Flora. But would preschool sweethearts Matt and Laura ever be reunited after so many years apart? Only time would tell. Nearly 25 years ago, Laura and Matt first met at a preschool. They were both 3 years old when they first got to know each other. Their parents didn't think much of their bond, but they became inseparable. During an interview with Today, Matt revealed, "I don't remember the first time I saw her, but she was always a girl who let me follow her around." All of this would lead to something incredible. The two first got to know one another even better during a school trip. Each kid had to pair up with a safety buddy, and the two stuck together and didn't stay away from each other during the entire trip. Soon, Laura figured out that Matt was a kind and warm person who wanted to be her pal. Didn't take long before they became two best friends who were basically joined at the hip no matter what. It seemed like their bond wasn't limited at preschool either. Their folks noticed the bond between the two and organized playdates for the kids. They even went to the movies together. One time, they'd been at the movies together when Matt displayed just how much he cared for Laura. He held her hand whenever something scary was about to happen. Isn't that cute? One of his favorite Disney films was Lion King. Other kids bragged about their parents, but Matt would much prefer to recite his favorite lines from the movie, and he impressed his best friend with it. Without a doubt, she was impressed by the way he recited them, but he was more impressed by her. She taught him how to use the swings, draw rolling hills, and eat string cheese properly. When they were celebrating Cinco de Mayo, he impressed Laura once more. The other kids were busy working on the piano when he swung hard enough to crack it open. Matt recounted, "Fortunately, I was the kid who managed to do it, and I assume it got her attention." The two of them were 4 years old, but they could already be described as lovebirds. They might have been very young, but this didn't stop him from letting everyone know about how he felt for her. As a matter of fact, he announced to the whole class that he would one day marry Laura. Everyone thought it was amusing. He only went on to say, "Just you wait." How adorable is that? The two stayed close and spent time at one another's birthday parties. Laura and Matt were still thick as thieves. They went on adventures and playdates. Would things change after preschool? There were plenty of things to worry about now they were headed to kindergarten. Would they be in the same class? It was hard to imagine a separation. They didn't want to be separated, of course. But things were even worse than that. They weren't just in different classes, but different schools. Despite everything, their parents promised they'd still set up playdates. Laura and Matt still saw each other on the weekends and spent time together, and they probably had a lot to catch up on. They had new pals and new experiences the others didn't know about. The weekly visits started to happen less frequently, though. Soon they were moving on from kindergarten and seeing each other much less. The photo here shows them during Christmas time. The holidays would soon be the only time they had together. Time went on and their contact was reduced to Christmas cards each year. They used to play every single day, but things changed. They made lots of new friends, but their bond was still special. Years passed and the cards started to become less sentimental and frequent. No one could blame the shift in dynamics. They grew up and grew apart. It was now time for them to mature. High school sure seems like a long time away from preschool. It wasn't a surprise that they didn't think about each other at all that often. However, something happened that changed everything for the two. When Laura was a freshman, she'd been scrolling through the phone of a friend when something caught her eye. She saw a name she knew very well in her past. Were her eyes deceiving her? She couldn't believe her eyes, and the screen read Matt Gronsky. Why was the name of her childhood sweetheart on her friend's screen? It was inevitable she'd be flooded by memories of the past. When she regained her composure, she told her friend about their special bond. It turns out her friend knew him from middle school. She decided to forget about it, but her friend did not. Her friend just couldn't believe the incredible story Laura told her. She wanted the two childhood lovers to meet up again. Laura felt hesitant about this. After all, she and Matt hadn't been in touch for years. While they talked about Matt, Laura said she didn't know if she would get a boyfriend. She told people, "I was a freshman in high school, so I was like, I don't think so." She was nervous about her friend's plan. Despite this, her friend gave Laura's number to Matt. Matt felt an urge to text Laura after he got the number. He sent her a text even though he wasn't sure how she'd react. When she responded, he knew there was nothing for him to worry about. What did Matt notice about her after spending such a long time apart? Apparently, it was her infectious smile. He recalled how he felt about her smiling nature. She always had a huge smile. Soon enough, the two of them scheduled a date to watch a movie like they used to. When they met again, Matt said that it felt like love at first sight. The two got along right away like they did in the past. The date went smoothly and they started to become boyfriend and girlfriend not long after this. They now had their driver's licenses so they could drive to see each other. It didn't matter they attended different schools. They also went to school functions and dances together. They'd already been separated before, but it was different when it comes to college. They wanted to remain together, but this was hard since they planned to go to colleges in different states. Right after we graduated from high school, we were pretty hesitant, Laura explained to people. We were like, do we stay together? Do we try to make it work? They didn't want to make things hard for each other. Matt planned to attend Columbia College in Chicago, while Laura was set to go to Northern Arizona University. They had 1,600 miles between them, but felt determined to make their relationship work. Even though it was hard for them, they didn't want to lose each other again. They spoke to each other every day through FaceTime and visited whenever they possibly could to keep the relationship alive. They were happy that social media existed. It let them stay up to date with what was going on in each other's lives. Despite this, they missed each other a lot. They were once apart for 6 months. Soon enough, the two of them were seniors in college. Matt decided to arrange a unique date for him and Laura. He decided to take her out on a picnic in their preschool. He wanted it to be a surprise. I convinced Laura we were going on a picnic at the preschool. We just finished up our junior year of college, so I framed it as a nice relaxing date, he recounted. They'd been in a relationship for several years already. He had something else for her, and Laura was completely oblivious. Laura was touched when she learned that they were headed for their old preschool. It was a thoughtful thing to do. This was the ultimate throwback if there ever was one. Mad props to Matt. When they were on their way to the preschool, he was acting rather fidgety. Laura assumed that he was just feeling excited and nervous about his secret date, but her emotions also started to run high. She began to realize this was no ordinary picnic. It was then that he dropped down on his knee and took her hand. He held out a ring and asked, "Will you marry me?" And she was shocked but said yes. Laura explained, "I was like, oh my gosh, is this happening? I saw the ring and I was like, this is gorgeous. I'm so happy with it. I had no idea." Matt knew that it was going to be very important, but he was worried that he might lose the ring. He said, "I kept checking my pocket when she wasn't looking to make sure it was still there." The special moment happened on the 23rd of May 2015. In reality, Matt had been planning this proposal for several months prior to that moment. He even asked her father for his blessing. He went out to buy the ring and even asked his brother to hide in the bushes and record the special moment with a camera. As you can see, he wanted this moment recorded. He then borrowed the picnic basket from his folks. No regular basket either. This was the same picnic basket his dad used when he proposed to Matt's mother. That made it even more special. The two of them stood to the exact spot that Matt exclaimed his love for her in front of the other kids. "I proposed to her at the place it all began, our preschool classroom," Matt explained to HuffPost. "When you like someone, you just kind of stand up and say it." The two of them tied the knot on the 30th of December 2016. We adore the fact that they had their first dance to "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Definitely a throwback to the early days. Their loved ones watched them dance together at the Arizona Historical Society. His uncle described it this way: "For most kids in preschool, it's about finding your snacks and your sleeping mats, but for them it was about finding their soulmates." Like other millennial couples out there, they shared their big day with the internet. They took to Instagram and Facebook to share their photos with their friends and family, but it reached even further than they expected. During the wedding ceremony, her father took the time to talk about the story of her adoption. They took Laura home from an orphanage in India. He also talked about his relationship with her mother. Her father had been doing a tour in India and spent around a year in the country. At the time, he was already in a relationship with Laura's future mom. She eventually found work at the American embassy in the country and finally got to be together. And they eventually got married. Her mother then told her husband that there was an orphanage full of children who didn't have a place to call home. They went there and looked for the orphan babies. There were hundreds of kids in various rooms in the orphanage, but they went to the room full of babies. When they saw Laura, they saw that there were drips in her arms and tubes in her nose. She'd been suffering from double pneumonia. They were determined to adopt her, but there was a policy that decided which baby would be adopted by whom. However, they were not going to let anyone tell them this baby was not meant for them. He decided it was time to use a new strategy. It was risky, but he knew it might be their only shot. As a US Embassy employee, he managed to bribe the agency officials with American products. These events brought the two young lovers to one another. At the wedding, Matt's uncle made the raw insight about the nature of love. Love is not one moment, not even this moment, it's every moment. Their love story was incredible, but they wanted to share it with everyone. Our favorite part of the wedding was the dancing and having everyone we love there to celebrate with us, they said. We tore it up on the dance floor and it was great being surrounded by everyone who played a part in bringing us together. After the dream wedding, they flew to Maui to celebrate their honeymoon together. We think it's fitting that they spent their wedding bliss in paradise. There was more to the story though. She wanted to share the story with everyone in the world and did exactly that. She took an old and new photo of them and shared these with The Way We Met, an Instagram account that shares touching stories of lovebirds. As you can imagine, their unique love story received a lot of attention. They didn't expect it to go viral though. Matt said, "I was enamored with Laura as a child and I still am to this day." The story didn't only reach a few people, it became a hit all over the globe. It was already impressive. The post initially received 30,000 likes and nearly 1,000 comments. Soon enough, the post had 400,000 different engagements. Various media outlets also reached out to them to hear their story. Their story sounded like something out of a movie, but it turns out that there are people with similar ones. On top of that, there were also people who lost touch with their childhood sweethearts. But the influence didn't only touch the hearts of people who love nostalgia. Other interracial couples saw the story and talked about the way they felt about it. Many were inspired. Can you believe that it got so big, even the Fast and Furious actor Tyrese Gibson heard about it? He was touched by the incredible romance and decided to do something about it. He said he was a huge sucker for romance and this might be one of the greatest love stories he ever heard. He got in touch with the couple to extend his congratulations and also offered them a 3-day Florida vacation. Laura and Matt plan to take him up on this. The two of them finally live in the same town and the same roof in their home state of Arizona. It's been 2 years since they tied the knot. Matt is an account executive at a digital marketing agency, while Laura works with a nonprofit that helps kids in need of foster care. They recently even bought a house. It didn't take them long to decide what they wanted to be parents as well. Kind of. The lovebirds adopted a lovely puppy and called him Kirby. Do they plan on having kids of their own in their future? People wanted to hear the answer. Here's what the couple answered. "We'd love to have kids at some point. Right now we're focused on our new puppy Kirby and our new house." The two of them had an incredible journey together. They fell in love when they were young, spent 8 years apart, and found each other once more. "The best thing about our relationship is we're just silly and we appreciate each other every day," they explained. Having gone through a long-distance relationship, you learn really quick how much the other person means to you and we value our time. They've known each other their entire lives. It must be hard to pick their favorite thing about each other. "My favorite thing about Matt is his humor. He always makes me happy and he's the most driven person I know," Laura said. "He's always moving forward." Matt said, "My favorite thing about Laura is her infectious smile and her desire to help those who are less fortunate. She's a force for good and it's inspiring to be around her every day." To this day, there are moments when they look back and wonder. It seemed like they always had a special place in each other's lives. It was special to finally tie the knot, but there was more. There are moments of tensions in traditional weddings. For one thing, some girls end up fighting over the bouquet the bride throws. It was a good thing that everyone was happy during the wedding. For Matt and Laura, every single day's a celebration. It was not only the fact that they got married or now live together, it's more than that. Their souls finally found their way to each other. True love exists. It's only the beginning for these lovers. Even though they kicked off their married life with a bang, we're sure that there are still many things fate has in store for them. We wish them the very best.